This is Brett Knowles from PM Squared Consulting. I'm going to take you through a more detailed explanation about why it is OKRs are in fact the driving force behind any AI-driven strategy development process and strategy execution process. This detailed walkthrough will be put into three sections. First, I'm going to talk about what it is that just happened. What is GPT and what its implications are in our world of OKRs. Then I'm going to move on to say, what is in the box? What do I need to make AI work on strategy, and where do OKRs fit in? And then finally, I'm going to give you a couple of case studies from our clients on what they have done to make it work. So let's progress on to part one, which is what just happened. Now, here's the thing. We've all heard about and probably played with ChatGPT. And our discussions around generative AI are focused, I think, on the wrong thing. And that's causing us to miss out on what's happened that's going to impact us in the OKR world. Obviously we're infatuated with what GPT can do. Writing text, better search results, creating custom art, becoming an interactive teacher. It's all really great and it's exciting, but the achievement that makes it all happen has huge impact on the OKR world and really changes everything that we do. And this advancement that's just happened is what I'm going to call understanding. So the G of GPT stands for generative, right? It generates stuff. Generative AI is kind of an unfortunate name because, sure, it generates things, but the name ignores the critical prerequisite. In order to generate things, it needs to understand the system it's talking about before it can generate it. And that is the big change that's happened. So I don't use the word understanding lightly. It's the most important word in this whole seminar. So what does it actually mean for AI to understand something? Well, here's how it is I think I would frame the argument. So take a standard 2x2. On the bottom axis, we're going to talk about understanding. And on the vertical axis, we're going to talk about outcomes. So let's focus on understandings for a second. There's a progression. So we start off with just raw data. Data is just a pile of numbers. And what we do is we make that into information. And we do that by organizing it. So we take that data and we sort it by region, by product, by owner, whatever it might be. And that becomes information. And you've all heard this story before. The progression from information becomes knowledge. What we do with knowledge is we take that information and we analyze it. We give you some sort of integration of what that means. The final step in this progression, I would argue, is understanding. Now you could choose other words. We're just going to use understanding for this seminar. So understanding is about our ability to apply that knowledge in new situations. So for example, we've often heard that people who are brilliant musicians are also great mathematicians. I'm applying the systems I know in mathematics to sound and to music. And so that's understanding. And that progression is super important. And so the key point is data is raw, information is organized, knowledge is integrated, and understanding is about the application. So in order for generative pre-trained transformations, GPT, to really understand things, on the left axis, we have outcomes. So outcomes go from task up to outcomes, right? And that's the world that we search for in the OKR world. Now, in a simplistic model, in the agricultural era, we're just using data and doing tasks. In the industrial era, we progress to begin needing information and beginning to apply knowledge. And where we are now as senior leaders is we're kind of in the understanding quadrant. Now, some people argue that what GPT does is just add on the next logical character onto something. My argument is no, it's about understanding. So using my example of music, think of Prince, right? When he's playing those, off the cuff guitar solos, if you watch him in slow motion, he's just going from one note to the next, like progressing from one to the next to the next. But the only reason he can do it and have, that incredible sound that he was able to generate is because of all the music he's listened to, all the hours that he's practiced. He can do it because he understands guitar. And so when we're told to, write an OKR about, dominating our markets, we can do so because we understand about strategy, about markets, about OKRs and so forth. And it's the logical next progression, but it's based on that deep knowledge. So if we go back to an example, so I asked Chat GPT to create an OKR for a regulated industry to take a lead in their global markets. And it came back with dominate our markets while complying with regional regulatory constraints, and came up with a bunch of key results. Now, it's arguable, too many key results, but the issue is it came up with this all by itself. Why could it do it? Like I just said, it's because it understands strategy. It understands leading the market and understands about the voice of OKRs. So instead of leading market, it's used the word dominate to be a bit more assertive. It understands about markets. It understands about regulatory constraints. It understands about OKRs and the structure of OKRs. It understands, in theory, what our current performance is because it set targets of 15% and so forth. And some understanding about our current capabilities and capacities. And this is work that has been done for a client of ours. So this is, showing that deep knowledge, right? So if we go back to that definition of understanding, it's the ability to apply knowledge in new situations and contexts. And that's precisely what just happened. You simply cannot write such an objective, much less an infinite number of objectives, without understanding the underlying OKR concepts. And it's the same for any sufficiency trained GPT, right? The point here is they don't generate. The point is they understand. So back to what happened, if we go back to this simple model of this progression, back when computers first showed up, they were awesome at capturing data and beginning to organize it, make it into information. As we progressed with things like ERP and so on, it moved forward to some degree of knowledge. And what's just happened is we've closed this gap. GPTs have come in and given us a degree of understanding around that information. And that's what's just happened. So in part 2, we'll step on to what does that mean in terms of the OKR environment.